Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dragons Are Real YouTube video, and today we're going to be having a look at Foundry again. Now, Foundry is a great VTT if you've already got a system in mind, but if you haven't got a system then it can throw some problems up. So what are your alternatives if you don't have a system to run on Foundry? So I did a video a while ago about using Foundry VTT without a system and PDF character sheets, and that is using the simple world building and system and the PDF module. So go and check that video out. I'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to have a look at that one. The other alternative that has always been is Sandbox by Sarahgrass, and Sandbox has been doing some development, and there is quite a few new videos up on his YouTube channel, and again I'll leave a link in the notes. Sandbox is very thorough, but you do need a bit of time and patience to build something out, but that is your alternative, and on his GitHub there is a lot of information about how to use it as well as the videos. Another alternative is the generic role-playing game aid. This one again is if you're looking to base it something similar to 3D6 like GURPS, or against a Dark Master, a D120 game or D20, then you can hack this to there's ways to do this. I've had a bit of a play with it. The documentation isn't brilliant, but I believe James is very approachable if you need any help with that. So those were the three main systems, and then recently a Modular Foundry system came along, and our Modular Foundry is inspired by Sandbox, but it's a lot simpler, and it's just been recently renamed, and it's not in the repositories yet, and it's called Custom System Builder now. So if you go to the web page, you can install it from the system.json file, and you can also update the modular one if you've already got it installed, but it's not on the Foundry website yet. So we're going to have a look at that today and have a play with that and see what that can do with us. So you want to have the custom system builder installed, and the way this works is it creates custom templates. You create templates, and then from the templates you can create characters and NPCs. So what we're going to do is, I've already done some already, but we'll look at the different things you can do. So we click on the Create Actor tab, and you've got a choice of a template or a character, and because it's a template you've got to start with, because you can't get anywhere without a template, we'll do this one, and we'll call it Test, and we'll create a new actor. And this is where we're going to create our character sheets for the new system. Now the character sheet is divided into three areas. We've got a header area up the top here, we've got a tabbed selector in the middle, and then we've also got down the bottom is for each of the tab selections we've got the information below. And it's as simple as clicking a plus or clicking a plus to add things. We can also configure hidden attributes, and if we go to the configure settings on the system settings, there's a couple of things we can set here. We can set an initiative formula, and currently this is set to 1d20. You can add CSS files, you can expand the visibility, you can choose your role icons, which is from Font Awesome. As it is at the moment, I don't think it's set to anything, but if we did dice D20, then whenever that is a dice logo is needed on the character sheet, it will select that item. We can show hidden roles, and there's a message that we can alter as well. So you've got to design your character sheet. You've got your three sections, so we'll start up at the top and we'll work our way down. So we can set a name for the template. We can configure the hidden settings there, any hidden attributes. So for example, if we wanted something permanently set up here, a hidden formula or a hidden number that we needed to reference on a regular basis, we could do so here. I'll come into all the different types you can have in a minute. So that is your hidden attributes, which aren't going to appear on your player's character sheets, but will be in the background. So if we click the plus element on the top half, this is where we can set a new element up the top. The plus on the bar here adds a tab, and once a tab has been created, then we can add things below it. And each of the fields is the same in whichever tab we are going to. So for example, now we'll go through all the different types you can create. So we'll click on the top, and the first type you can create is a label. So for labels, we have the top box here is all the different types we can have. We can have label, text field, rich text area, checkbox, drop down, panel, table, and dynamic table. So we'll start off with label, and we'll go through each of these as we add them. So the component key, this is optional, and if you set this, this label can be used in any formulas. So for example, if it's going to be something like strength in one of your stats, you could name this, and then you could reference that in your stats, in your formulas. So for example, for this one, look, this will be PC name, and I believe that you can't have any spaces in the names. They've got to be alphanumeric. I've used an underscore there, you could use a dash. Your label style, you can choose between the default style, title style, subtitle, and bold text, and this will set the size of it. The size is auto, small, medium, and large. Label text is optional, and what I'll do is let's create a title here. Size is auto. We'll call this name. We don't want a role message for this one, and we'll click save here, and you can see now we've got a label up here with name. It doesn't do anything else, it's just a label. Let's click a second one. What next one we've got is a text field. So text field, again, it has a component key. The key on a text field is mandatory, and I would say for all these keys, whether you're going to use them or not, get into the habit of putting keys in there. Each key has got to be unique, so work out some system that you're going to use. A label is optional, and I'll show you with and without a label. So without a label, we can set the size. It can be auto, small, medium, and large. Format is either an integer or numeric, or none. So we'll set this one to an integer, and you can set the maximum length, and you can also set the value. So if I save this one now, you notice now we have name, and we've got the field below it. So if you want to test this out to see what it's like, go back to your character sheet, or your character tab, actor tab, create a new actor. This one is going to be a character. We'll call this test PC. And now we have to select which template we're doing. The template we're using here is test. As you can see, I've already got some other templates up. So I click on test, click the renew, and now you can see what we've set up on the left here is now on the right. So for example here, I can put a name in. So if I wanted to call the character name Brian, I can put the details in there. If I click on the field, I can alter that. So let's change this to numeric, and let's set it to a maximum length of 5. Why we do that, I don't know. And we'll set the default value for 1. So let's refresh this. Okay, you can see 1 in there. Now I can put numbers in, but as you can see now, it will also default to 5 because I set it to a length of 5. Anything greater than that is nothing, and if I put nothing in there, it should default to 1. Okay, so that is your text field. Now we can, if we wanted to, I could get rid of this name field here, and all you do is click on it on the left, press delete, and that will click that. Now let's create a label here, and we'll put name here. And now let's change this back. We'll set this to 10. We'll change this to integer, and now if we would do it, you can see we've got the label and the field. So now we can set the name over here. So in the top part of this character sheet, you would set things that are constants, and I would use inspiration for your normal character sheets. So let's have a look at what we can do with the tabs. We click tab. Each tab has a name, so we'll start off with stats, tab key, and again it must have a unique key, so I will call this stat tab underscore tab. Click OK, and we'll click another one, and let's have this as gear and gear tab. Okay, so again it's creating the tabs along the top here. I click the plus to add one. I can edit by clicking on this one here, whichever one's highlighted, or I can delete one here. So if I refresh my PC's character sheet, now you can see we've got two tabs, stats and gear. We can flip between them, but at the moment it doesn't do anything. So we'll go back to the stats tab and let's have a look at what we can add. In fact, let's go to the gear tab. We'll click plus. And this one we're going to select a rich text area. The rich text area, again, you've got the component key and it is mandatory. You have a label which is optional, and let's say call this biography, just for the hell of it. The size we can set to the size, and the sizes are small, medium and large, or auto. Format is optional, and we've got non-integer or numeric. We'll leave that. Why you would set that is if you want to make sure that a numeric is added only or an integer is added only, then you would set that, otherwise you set it for none. Maximum length is optional. Default value is optional. Label is optional. And style in sheet, you've got three choices here. You've got an in-sheet editor, dialog editor and icon only. So let's save this. And it doesn't appear well in here, but if we go over to the right, you can now see we've got a field in here. If I click on the field, you can see now we can record some details in here. The end of times. And you can see now this rich text field is here. Let's create another one beneath it. Another rich text area. And this time we're going to pick a dialog editor and click save, refresh. So now if I click on this, you can see this has a pop-out editor as opposed to this one which has an inbuilt editor. So there's two of your choices. And the third one we can do is again rich text area, and this time we'll go for icon only. Click on save, refresh, and with this one you just get the icon to do the repair, to do the alteration. You can move these, as we noticed there, we can move them about, and then if we click on this, you can see now they've altered, so you can move things around. Same over here, if we move the gear to the left, refresh, the gear will now move to the left, we can move it back to the right, so everything you can move around as well, which is really handy. Okay, so that is our rich text field. So let's go back to our stats and let's add something new. The next one on the list is a checkbox. All this is if you need something as for a checkbox, it doesn't do anything besides this. You have a component key, so this might be fatigued. You need to record if something's fatigued. You have a label optional. We'll set this. As you can see, a lot of the boxes repeat over each other. Maximum length, default value is optional, and label is optional as well. So we'll click save, refresh, and now over on the left hand side we've got a checkbox. As you can see, this one isn't saving, so let's close this down. And we'll go back to our test. Open it again. Fatigue. Save. Is it saved? It has this time. So as you can see, there's still some glitches in this, and there's appeared now. So I say this system is very young, so there's going to be some glitches. Let's move if I add another checkbox now, say I want different levels of fatigue, and I do another checkbox, you'll see what happens here. We'll call this one fatigue 2 because it's going to be different. No label on this one because what I plan is to have this box after, but it doesn't. If you do that, it appears on a new line. And there's ways around this, and I will come to this shortly. So next up, after a checkbox, we've got a drop-down list. So a drop-down list is a list with a number of limited options. Again, you've got your component, your key, your unique key, your label, and let's say, for example, we want class, and then we want to put our options. So our options can be in an alphanumeric string, and the value can be anything. So if let's just try Bard, Paladin, Cleric, and we'll click Save, and let's see what happens if we do this. So a class, there's nothing here, and that's because when we come back over here, we haven't done a key with a value. So if we do Bard, we could put Paladin, Fighter, just to see what these do, and Cleric. These keys have to be unique on the left, and the reason that you have a key and a value is that you can use the keys in calculations. So let's click this on Save now. Click Refresh, and now you can see let's close them out again and reopen them. As you can see, that's probably because I'm going to have to put them on separate rows, I'm guessing. Multiply commas, there we go. Click Save. And refresh. You can refresh after every time, and now you can see we've got Bard, we've got Fighter, and we've got Cleric, and then we can select them. Okay, and as you can see here, we've got some really things screwy going on, and that's because we've probably not set a name up the top here. We haven't, and because we haven't set a component key here, you can see now things are getting a bit screwy. So let's and I found out if you put the user component key as name, this causes all sorts of problems when you're saving the characters. So we'll have the name of, click Save, refresh. Okay, so that's details gone now. So when I click on class here now, it sets, and you can see now what the importance of setting individual names. What I did find is if I just call this name, click on Save, then every time I opened up the PC and closed it, it was adding a comma at the end here, and obviously as you can see, commas and commas, and every time I close it, it renames it. So what I found out is don't use the word name up here, and that's why I used name of. Save that, and then that will stop this error coming up here. Don't know if it's a known error, but that's one I found out. Okay, so we've got our drop downs. Obviously in the drop downs you can set the default that you wanted to be at the bottom as well. So remember, each one of these goes on a separate line. Okay, now the biggie. This is panels, and panels are basically they're invisible containers, and they display other parts of the layout. So let's go ahead to panel. Again, we've got to have a panel component key. So we'll call this HP panel. We got a choice of vertical, horizontal, grid of columns. So for this one, I'm going to click vertical, click Save, and now you can see we've got this panel here. If I click now, I can put a checkbox in, and I call this we'll call this HP1. I don't want a label. I'll click another one. I want HP2. So checkbox HP2. Click Save, and this is set as a vertical. So now it's going to line everything up in the vertical manner. If I want to set this as horizontal, if I switch to horizontal and save, you'll see now we can put things on the same line. So if I wanted a third checkbox, HB3, click save, it's adding them all. What you can also do is set up a grid. So say I want a grid of 2 columns. So what it should do now is put 2 columns along the top and the next one down. And so it does. On our test PC, you can see now if we refresh, the panel itself doesn't appear, but it's great for layout. So this one is a really good one. You can also align things to the left and the right, or justify or center, and when we refresh you can see instantaneously. Okay, so that's panels. The next big one is tables, and these are strict containers with specified columns and row counts. So let's add a table. So we go down to table, we'll call this table 1, and here we set up how many rows we want and how many columns. So let's have 3 rows, 3 columns, and you can see for the table layout you can specify how each column is. So it's aligned to the left, right or centered. So as we've got 3 columns, we'll go left, center, right. So the left column will be to the left, center column will be centralized, and the right will be to the right. Click save, and now you can see there we have our 3 tables. If I refresh over here, there's nothing here because again we now need to add something in each of these columns. So for example, I could put a label here of name 54. We'll call that name, and we'll click save. In the second column we want a text field. I will have that as name 54 result. We'll set this to a maximum of 10. And thirdly, we'll have a checkbox with name 54 check. Why we don't want that, I don't know, but this is purely for example. And now you can see that table, it's set everything up in a nice table. If I stick something else below it, it's going to line up because each of these boxes is centered to the left on the left hand column. So for example, now if I wanted a label with class field, click save. As you can see now, if I refresh, it's on the left and it's lining everything up. So tables are great for putting other things within them. And then our last one is a dynamic tables, and these are components allowing players to make custom lists in their sheets with a layout specification. So let's create a new tab. We call this dynamic tab purely. So dynamic tab. We'll click save. We'll refresh. And on the dynamic tab, we're going to add a dynamic table. We're going to make the bold, and this is Dyna 1. Click save, and underneath we can select what we're going to add on here. So we could put a checkbox, center it, check 99. Then we could have a label of let's have a text field, gear 1. Okay, so I've created a dynamic table there. Let's refresh on this side. If we go to dynamic table now, you can see if I click this plus, it will give me the checkbox and it will add the gear field. And what is beauty of this is the player can keep adding things to this dynamic table. So for example, if he's got lots of things he wants to add, you can add them here with some details, but they're not constrained as they are with a table. With a table, you're fixed to exactly what you can have. With a dynamic table, the players can keep adding rows, and this one's really handy for inventories, money, stuff like that, and they can also delete them. So that is the first part. That is our layout. Okay, the next part is formulas. So you can place formulas in label text or role messages, and you can use formulas to enhance your sheets. You can use normal formulas. So for example, let's see our go back to our stats sheet. Let's create a new one. Let's go and under our stats, let's create something called strength. Here we go. We have a label of strength. We'll call this one strength with capitals. We'll have it as bold text. We want strength here. And we'll have the role message of 1d20, and we'll put this in parentheses here, and we'll click save. As you can see now, because it's rollable, it's put an icon there, and that icon is coming from our settings here when I said dice 120. If I said dice d8 and click save, and we'll refresh here now, you'll see, whoops, yeah, I forgot to mention, Dice So Nice works with it now. So if you put modules, manage your modules and select Dice So Nice, you can now do your rolls. So because we've set this as strength, let's dice d20, get rid of that altogether, roll icons, just, there we go. Okay, so we've got our strength there, as you can see, as we roll over it, and that is set to whenever we click on that, it's going to roll 1d20, and sure enough, roll it 1d20. So it's great if you've got things that are set up like that. Let's have a another one. Let's have a strength, and this is going to be a text field. This is going to be strength score. It's not going to have a label. Maximum length, we're going to have it as 1. Let's have it at 2, just in case we got up to 10. And we'll click save there. As you can see, it doesn't look nice there, so we'll probably put that in a panel just to make it look nice, but I'm not messing around here at the moment. And then on our strength, well, let's change this, and we're going to use a formula. We're going to use the dollar symbols, which has to be at the front and the back. We have to have curly brackets either side, and then if we're doing a roll, it's got to be in square brackets, so we'll have these square brackets on the inside of that. Okay, so if we want to use a reference to another component key, we have to include them within 2 colons. So we'll add 2 colons, and we're going to call it strength. What did we call it? Our strength, this one here was strength score. So strength score, we'll reference that, but we want to roll a d6 plus our strength score. So it should be 1d20 plus our strength score. And I'm hoping that that will will roll. So we'll click save, we'll click refresh, we'll put a strength of 4 here, we'll click the strength, and here it comes. So that's a 16. So a 16, it should be 16 plus 4. As you can see, 16 plus 4 is 20. And if we click on it, we've got d20 plus our strength score, which is d20 plus 4 is 20. So you can see now from here we are picking up whatever is in this field and adding it to our dice roll. And that is how you use formulas, and you can get quite inventive with formulas. You can also ask for user inputs, and I'm going to refer you to the page for this, the GitHub page, to what you can do with formulas. But I'm going to show you now a couple of systems that I've been working on. First one is for the Awful Cheerful engine, and I created a character in this. So in this one, as you can see in my character sheet, it's set to the template of Ace, which is this one over here. I've got up the top here, I've got some set items which are labels, and if I click on them, you can see the text fields with names on them. Each of these is in a panel. I've got a health setup here. This one here is just a simple, to break it up, I put a label here to the left, and this defense here is set to an optional value of 8. Then beneath this I've got different tabs, and then I've got scores for the tabs, and this is a D6 system, so whatever is in here, I want to roll that number of D6. If I have a focus which is below it, applies to it, it will add 2 to that score. So instead of rolling 4 dice, if a focus is applicable, it'll roll 6 dice. But I've also got with this system is that one of the D6 is a wild dice. All D6s explode, but a wild dice is called a calamity dice. So how have I done this? So if I open up my smarts now, you can see what I've done is this is smarts, so that is the name for it there. And I'm saying that roll number 1 is whatever value is in this, because this is called SMA, -1. And it's a D6 which explodes on a 6. Then I'm adding a something called calamity, which is going to appear in the box on the right, in the chat box, and that's going to be roll 2, which is 1d6, because it's always a wild dice, 1d6, which explodes on a 6, and then I'm going to add the 2 rolls together to get the result. So let's have a look how this looks at. So if I roll on smarts here, it rolls 4 dice. The smarts dice, which is the 4 dice minus 3, so the first 3 dice is an 8, so that was a 1, 2 and a 5, and the calamity dice was a 1, and the result is 9. So let's roll it again, see if we get a 6 on any of these. A 6 is rolled, so another 6 comes up. So you can see now this is rolled a 6, which explodes. The results are here. If I do a focus, all I've done with the focus one is, instead of being smarts -1, it's smarts +1, because it adds 1s to the dice. So instead of rolling 4 dice, 3 of which will be a normal dice and 1 will be a wild dice, this will now roll 6 dice, and so it does. Again, one of them is going to be there's the 1 dice, and there's the other 5 dice. So as you can see, I've got some boxes here with free text on here. I've got an optional one here for powers, which I haven't done. Abilities, which is based on what's up here, so that's just a text box. And then I've got a gear box here, which is a dynamic table where I can just keep add 4 things. The 4 things are just gear, which may or may be relevant, so I can add extra if I so wish. So that is one of them done, which is for the Awful Cheerful engine. The other one I've been working on, which is not finished yet, is Neon City Overdrive. And what I've done with this one is, again, because this uses custom dice, I've had to install a custom module that will do the dice rolling for me. So that's a nice little cheat. So this uses the FUX dice roller. And basically with this one we have trademarks, you have gear, some hits at the top here, and dynamic table down the bottom here, which can keep adding trades to, and up to 6 trademarks. So if I open the table for this one, I've got some check boxes here which I can check, I've got my trade box there, which is just text down here. If I want to gear, I haven't finished writing the gear yet. If I want to add some more trademarks, I can just click here and add some more trademarks. And then when I come to do the dice roll, I can just click on this button down the bottom here, and this brings up a separate dice roller for me. And I know with this one that I'm starting with 1 action dice. I've got 1 for being a gutter scum, 1 for fighting dirty, and I've got a danger dice. Then I roll this, it'll do the rolls for me and give me the result. So all I need for this one was just a character sheet, and there's a separate module for doing the dice rolling for me. So that is the custom system builder. As you can see, you can build different types of character sheets, have a play with it. I found it is more complicated than the simple world builder and the PDF Foundry module. However, it's not as complicated as Sandbox. So it's another option in your toolbox to decide where you want to go down, whether you want to keep it simple with simple world building with the PDF Foundry, whether you want to go full hog with Sandbox and do lots of design and build items in, because with this one, things like items don't exist. If you can't create an item, as you can see, it's just an item, but there's no text or anything to it. So everything is just done within an actor. So you've got your 3 options there for if the GRPGA one if you need it. So plenty of options there, and I hope you find this video was useful. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.